I'm Kirsten Neese, the Director of Marketing for Cornerstone Homes. I'm excited to be out here with you all again. It seems like we just started this, but this is our 8th episode in Tuesdays at 2. We're out here at Barley Woods up in Fredericksburg today in our model home, the Washington. I'm with Angela Davis. She's a designer with Ethan Allen and one of our preferred design consultants that helps us in our lunch and learns and is a valued member of our concierge team. So Angela, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into interior design.
Well, that is an interesting story because my history is 24 years of health and well-being. I was a massage therapist and an esthetician and transferred into the design world, designing spa spaces for body therapists who are usually cramped into these really small spaces. Well, I am a very tall person and started working as a spa consultant, designing aesthetically beautiful spaces that were set up for body mechanics for the therapist. Nobody wants to go into a spa and see all this equipment and all these body pictures and everything else. They want to see tranquility and beauty. So there was a way to create that and yet still have a working space for the therapist. In doing so, I studied for 2.5 years with a feng shui master. And in that, learned how intricately connected we are with our space. It was kind of going into design from a backwards approach, but I was so intrigued on how connected we are to color, space, spatial awareness, placement of things, and how much it had an impact on our psyche that I decided to study design in a formal way and go into interior design, and that was 11 years ago.
Fantastic. Well, that's really great because we love health and wellness at Cornerstone Homes, and that's what we're all about, creating lifestyle communities for the betterment of the active adult and their 55 plus lifestyle. So tell me a little bit about your preferred relationship with us and how you have worked with our team and some of our home buyers, and just a little bit about that. And speak up a little bit because we're a little further away.
Okay.
Thanks.
Part of the preferred program with Cornerstone, I became introduced to that about 2 years ago. It's a group of people that come together to help the 55 and older group of people transitioning into this freer lifestyle after the children are gone and they've lived their life, moving into a more freer lifestyle to help them in that transitionary stage. As a designer, I come in there and help them to reposition their home. They're moving from a more confined home where the kids have grown up, there's bedrooms for this and bedrooms for that, and more confined spaces into a more open living space. I think it's a great program. You have people in there to help them downsize, upsize, whichever size they want to go. My role is to help them dream their lifestyle into what they want in this forever space and to integrate that into the format or the floor plan that Cornerstone offers them. I love this brand. I've been into many 55 and older communities as a designer, helping people to create that lifestyle. I love this brand. I'm not saying that I'm not getting paid for that, but I do because of the things that they offer. And that's why I'm part of your concierge program.
Yeah, you're a great fit with us. And so you have this great slogan that we've sort of adopted as well, and it's all about reimagining your lifestyle. And it just fits so beautifully in with our whole mission of creating these healthier lifestyles, not only within the community, but within the home. And of course, within the home, that's really where you specialize in helping people kind of pull out from them, what do you want from this new space, and what do you want to do, and how do you want to live? So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the first thing is you have to dream. We've all been in this pathway of accommodation. We've had our children, we've had our careers, we've worked for someone else, we've modeled our life after others. And in this phase of life, we're kind of like deer in the headlights. We're modeling our life after ourselves. And for 60, 70, 75 years, we've forgotten what we loved when we were younger. So my job as a designer is to reignite that passion. what do you love? What have you forgotten about what you loved? And when you ask that question, you've been there. What are you dreaming of? What do you love? People are silent for a moment.
Yeah.
They're really quiet because they're not expecting to think about that when they're building their forever home. Your surroundings in your neighborhood already address that. Mm-hmm. It's a healthy lifestyle. There are walking paths and gardens and cooks that come in and have these gourmet things. They're already geared toward community, but they're not really thinking about that yet. They're just thinking about a roof over my head and a place to sleep and a kitchen to cook and these things. But there are more things to a home than that. There are libraries to read in, and there's space and time for that now. There are wine cellars to be had. there are creating rooms to be had. One woman said, I want to refinish furniture. I don't think she really thought about that until someone asked. Somebody wanted a piano room. I don't think anybody thought about that until someone asked. People have stopped me after these gatherings and said, I don't ever really think I've ever been asked that about my home. And that's our job. That's my job as a designer, is to get people to thinking about, how do you want this home to fit around you?
That's right. And it's the first time that they're really thinking again about themselves and what they want, because so much of their life has been geared towards their family and everybody else. And so every house, like you say, has a kitchen, has an owner's bedroom and bathroom and, you know, a big sitting area or whatever. Now it's all these smaller spaces that you can design and help them find what fits their lifestyle.
Right.
So that's a great message. I love that. So as you work with the active adult buyer, what are 3 things that you think they should know from an interior designer's perspective when they're building their home?
First thing is, what do you love to do in your spare time? What do you really, really, really love to do in your spare time? What have you missed doing in your spare time because you didn't get a chance to do it on the weekends? There were soccer games and baseball games and this and that and the other thing. What have you missed doing all those years in your spare time?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, what traditions do you want to keep? You're moving from a larger home into a smaller home with undefined rooms. So what traditions do you want to keep? That larger table, it's going to be smaller. So you have to think about these things, because what was now a 12 family gathering might turn out to be a six person table or a 2-person table. So if you want to keep those traditions, you need a designer to help you figure that out.
And have seating for the
And
12
have
people
seating for
when
that.
you want to have that family dinner.
But you may not want to have a table for 12.
Right?
I know how to help you figure that out.
Yeah.
That's why you need me. And then what new experiences do you want to bring into your life? Because you're sitting at the edge of the Grand Canyon. You could take flight here. I mean, what do you want to bring in? So these are things that you want to make room for in this downsized, oversized life. Because you can actually build that in to this home that you're now creating for the rest of your exciting life. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, in these floor plans, there are flex spaces. There are downstairs spaces. We don't think about this. We come in to say, we're just building a home. We need a bedroom, we need a kitchen, we need a bathroom. We're so used to buying homes with just the necessities. You're not limited to that here.
Right.
And that's why, what are you dreaming about? And what can you experience? What do you want to bring in this phase of your life is so important to think about. And that's why bringing a design, the architecture's here. How do you want to play with it?
Right. And make it
And
unique
make it
and special for you.
Correct. There's paint, there's floors, there's everything else. But what you can do with it is really up to you.
Sure. That's great.
So that's where I come in.
I love that. I love that. Those are great tips.
Yeah.
So then what are some of the challenges that you find when you work with an active adult buyer?
Letting go.
That's right. They've accumulated a lot of stuff. A lot of times, right, when we poll the audiences at our Lunch and Learns, they've lived in their homes for
Many years.
15, 20, 30, sometimes 40 years. That's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of marks on the doorways, you know, from when Sarah hit this mark in her growth or whatever. And then there are memories to those things that they've gathered, and the boxes of the, popsicle stick picture frames and things. Letting go of those things. And then the second thing is my children don't want my things.
Right. And that's really hard.
Those
The
are
value of those things has
Yes.
changed over time.
The other piece is, I just went through this with another couple. The money that you spend on all of those things, and then oftentimes we're left with just having to give them away. Other people don't value those things with the same affection that we do. Hard-earned money that was spent to purchase those things, other people don't see that with the same value that we do. That is very, very difficult because in my eyes and your eyes, we spent the most valuable thing that we had, which was time.
That's
and
right.
we purchased that with our time. But others don't see that. So letting go is probably the hardest thing that you deal with. So what I say to people is, it's the future that you're working toward. It's the future that you're looking toward. It's what you're creating that is what you're holding on to. And if you can find in your being to look at your things with a bit of objectivity and go through the house and take some gold stars if you need to, or something that is significant to you. You're going to do this multiple times.
Right.
You cannot walk through the house once and say that's it. Some people can.
Well, and there's a lot of ways to repurpose something. So
Yes.
something that might have held china and fine glassware and things like that, you might use as a bookcase and
Correct.
hold other special items that
Correct.
you're just not ready to get rid of.
Right.
So
There is no, if you get a designer that says you have to get rid of it, get rid of that designer.
yeah,
Because there is no design rule anywhere that says that china cabinet that has been in your family for 35 years or 70 years has to go. We live in an eclectic world, right? There are no design rules.
yep,
There are none. We have pieces in a design room that are 100 years old and just bought yesterday. That's what eclecticism is all about. So the house may be brand new and the pieces may be 100 years old. It's irrelevant. That's what a good designer does, bridges the gap.
right.
So if you're
Absolutely.
worried about whether or not this is going to work, call me.
I know, so let's talk about
Yeah.
that. So when you've worked with people, and you have over here, you have some 3D
Yes,
plans.
yeah.
So you've got all this great software, you've got all of our plans downloaded. People can send you pictures and sizes of their furnishings, and you can put them in to a room design and a couple different ways, and they can walk through the space 3D virtually, and kind of reimagine their new home in
Right.
that space with your diagrams and your assistance. So I think that is invaluable. Like, how far should the sofa be from the TV? What height should I hang the TV? Go ahead and hold this up. Let's see if we want to, maybe the bigger one. So,
Yeah, so the very first thing is, I always tell people when they're moving, before you ever go out and buy, stop. I've worked with people I had a young guy come in one day, he said, I had to return my sofa, it wouldn't fit in the elevator. It was his first house.
right.
So don't waste your money, really seriously. Don't buy until you've had a chance to do a floor plan. A floor plan is a 2-scale drawing like this. You can't see it, but if you work with me, we will do this for you. But it's a 2-scale drawing that actually allows you to see your room with your pieces to scale before you ever purchase anything. Because I've actually done a floor plan for people and said, that sofa's too big. It will not fit in your room. So don't buy that. You're going
Right.
to waste money.
Or don't recover that
Don't
old
recover
one that you
that.
have. Let's
It
look
will
for-
cost you more money than it would to buy something that's new. Also, too, if you're thinking about replacing things, most people who move will always replace 3 things. A sofa. That's automatic, because when you're downsizing, you're going into something that's smaller.
Right.
An open floor plan, you're probably going to be replacing certain items, chairs, sofas, maybe a bed. It depends whether you're going to go to a larger bed or a smaller bed, a mattress. These things matter. A bed is not a bed. A platform bed is not the same size as a sleigh bed.
Right.
It just is not. maybe a table. You may have a table for 12. You're probably going to downsize to a table for 4 or 6. So these things, you really need to work on a floor plan. So you may think that you want a table for 6, but a table for 6 with chairs for 6 means really a table that may be 48 inches or 42 inches wide, but you have to allow for chair size. So these things do matter, and you can conserve these purchases and buy smaller with the right planning. And a floor plan does that for you. It gives you a top-down look at what the space is capable of handling.
Right.
And sends you in a direction of a size before you buy. Size then allows you to dress it. Once you know the size, then you can pick the style.
And the color and
the
frame
color and everything
Yep.
else. But you need to know what you're looking for first. So and then you can put it into 3D.
Yeah.
Walk through the room and say, oh wow, this feels amazing.
And then add color to it.
Color, paint, floor, everything else. Everything you see here can be dropped into a floor plan, and before you know it, you're standing in your home before it's ever built.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I think that's super helpful to our buyers because they, have lived in the same space for a long time, so it's hard to kind of imagine that. And unless you have your kind of creative brain like that, sometimes it's really hard for people to think that.
Yeah.
So without pressing on too much, I do want to kind of get to a happy story. So you've worked with some of our buyers, and I'd love to kind of get your piece on, how you've worked with somebody and how that turned out.
One of the funniest stories I ever had was somebody that actually lived here in Barley Woods. And she came into the design center, and I was working with her. She said, I haven't bought furniture in 20 years, and I really don't like furniture shopping. I don't like to spend money. But if I'm going to do it, it has to be good. And I said, well, you've come to the right place. I am a designer who does not like to sell people things they don't need.
Right.
So that's my policy. If it's not necessary, I'm going to tell you don't do it. That's just my policy. So we worked for about 3 hours, and we went around and we purchased sofas. And I'm a person who, it needs to fit. It needs to fit from here to here. It has to have the right back support. It has to have this. It has to have that. Otherwise, it's pointless. Okay?
Right.
So we were going back and forth, and she was still kind of hesitant, and I said, you know what, I'm going to invite you into the design center for lunch. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, tomorrow is Sunday. Why don't you come in? We're only going to be here for 5 hours. Bring a lunch and a book. She said, okay. She was looking at a sofa, a love seat, and a chair. I said, bring a book, bring your lunch, and come into the design center and plan to spend about 3 hours here rotating between the sofa, the love seat, and the chair. And she did.
Oh, how fun.
It's too funny. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You need to know if this is going to work for you. And so she did.
That's great.
She
I
came
love that.
in, she met me at the design center. I said, okay, so set yourself up here. And she came in, and everybody was looking at me like, who's that? I said, that's my client. She's going to be here for a while, so I would just go back and check on her. And she would be sitting there with her feet up there. She was reading her book and eating her lunch. She had her thing on. She would go back between the incliners. She'd have her feet up there. She was reading her book. It was so fun. I loved it. But that's what it's about. She ended up making the purchase. We put it in her house, and she said, I absolutely love this.
That's great.
Absolutely
That's great.
love it.
And it does. It takes our buyers a little more time to figure out what floor plan they want, what community they
Correct.
want. They are making a big decision.
Yes.
And furniture isn't that much different.
It's
so
not.
it's really been so special having you here with us and
Oh, thank
sharing all about reimagining your lifestyle in a Cornerstone home and how you can help our buyers. And Angela works at the Ethan Allen store here in Fredericksburg. Our sales managers have her contact information, or you can call direct to their store, or
I can also go down to Richmond,
yeah,
too.
and we'll put
I'm
some
down there, too.
information in the show notes. Yes, she definitely works with all of our buyers in Richmond, and so we're just thrilled to have you with us today. And thanks so
Good.
much for coming out. It's been
It was
wonderful.
a pleasure.